November 21st, 2021. So this morning we are having the meeting from 10:30 till maybe noon. This is the Municipal Truth and Reconciliation Committee meeting for Sioux. So I'll call the meeting to order. And number 2 on the agenda is the land acknowledgement, which will be given by Mayor Doug Lawrence. Okay. No audio. No audio.
Sorry.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming through all right now.
Very faint.
I apologize. Is this better? Can you hear me now? It's coming through. Apologies. Technological difficulties as we start our meeting and acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Sioux First Nation within Treaty 3, and that many of the people and communities we serve in Sioux come from Treaties 5 and 9, as well as Treaty 3, known as the Anishinaabe Nation. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mayor. All right. We'll move on to number 3 on the agenda. 3A, introduction of amendments to the agenda. Anybody? No? Okay. So there are no amendments, and now
Not
we'll have-
exactly an amendment, but just wondering if we can have an update on things like the flagpole. Yeah.
flagpole.
Yes,
Are
we can add that under item 6C, updates flagpole.
Okay. All right, that's been added. The flagpole update on 6C. Okay. Anything else? Okay. So then,
the only thing that I have, just a question. I noticed that Tiffany put on the TRC that we had 10 attachments. I've only noticed 9. Is that an error or did I miss one?
Tiffany?
Sorry, 10 attachments where?
When you sent out like the agenda, the minutes of the meeting, I've got like 10 attachments and I've only got 9.
Okay,
It's just a question. It doesn't mean it.
Sorry, I apologize. That must have been an error because all the attachments for this meeting were at the were on that email and on the invitation.
Okay, thank you.
okay. So shall we confirm the agenda for this meeting? 3B, confirmation of the agenda. I'll need a mover and a seconder. That's, Mario, you're going to move? Okay. Do we have a seconder? Joyce, will second? Okay, so the agenda is now confirmed. Okay, number 4, declarations of pecuniary interest.
Here,
Sorry.
Darlene.
Yes.
Lynn Marie has her hand up. She may want to have added something at this point.
Okay, Lynn, did you want to add something to the agenda?
I just wanted to see or figure out how to add something maybe for future meetings. I'm really curious how land use happens within the municipality of Sioux Lookout. And I'm curious to know if there are any, what do you call it? Acknowledgements of Lac Sioux territory when it comes to purchases of, for example, waterfront properties. What do you call it? It's becoming really clear to me that First Nations, Indigenous people do not benefit from any land exchange or, I don't know, land use in the municipality when it comes to, and the thing is that I'm not familiar with Lac Sioux's treaty things, but I want to have a discussion in the future about how waterfront properties are, I don't know, their historical use. I'll have to, what do you call it? Better, what do you call it? Better form my question, but it's something that I'd like to examine in the future. And it doesn't have to be today. Definitely not. I don't have time right now.
If I may suggest, Lynn, Marie, if you send me an email directly once you formulate what exactly it is you're looking for, because the municipality may be able to just address your questions directly instead of through the TRC. But we can certainly bring it to the TRC if you'd like. So if you could just send me a little update on what exactly it is you're looking for, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Okay. So number 4, declarations of pecuniary interest, none. 5, adoption of minutes from August 23rd, 2021 meeting. And these were sent out to you in the email. So do we see anything here from the minutes? I don't see anything. I only saw a couple of minor errors and those were sent in, so, and corrected. Okay, shall we move to adopt these minutes then? Lynn Marie moves. I need a seconder now. Who wants the second? Mayor, Doug, seconder. And Aileen has just joined us, so that's good. Hello, Aileen.
Hi there. Sorry I'm late. I'm not at home and I thought it was at 11 and then I just realized it was 10:30 we were supposed to be starting.
All right. Okay. And we are now at number, oh yeah, okay. So moved by Marie, seconded by the mayor, and carried by all. Okay. Number 6, business arising from the minutes. So the first one up is 6A, the Education and Reconciliation Week. And I see the date September 24th to September 25th to October the 4th. I believe a pamphlet was just sent out this morning on the Truth and Reconciliation Week, and it has a listing of all the events for the coming week, starting on Thursday, September 23rd. We're incorporating Take Back the Night's Walk, which was done by First Step Women's Shelter. And then on Saturday, on the 25th, will be the Kairos blanket exercise hosted by the Friendship Center at the Rec Center. So that's on Saturday, on the 25th. So very excited to see this pamphlet. Well done. I can't believe you got all that information in there. And on Monday, September 27th, there will be an opening ceremony for SLIFNA's new Development Services Office at 42 King Street. There will be a blessing and tours of the facility. So that's interesting. That's good. And then the same night, the same day, United Church of Canada will be having a film night from 6:30, 7 o'clock, and there will be 2 short films, local filmmakers, Jane and the Wolf by Nadine Arpin, The Gift by Rachel Garrick, and Muffins for Granny by Nadia McLaren. So the admission is free, donations are graciously accepted, and I believe it's limited to 30 participants because it's indoors. Tuesday, September 28th, Slam Open House and Barbecue. Visit Slam's office at 30 Front Street. And they're going to have hot dogs, hamburgers, soup, bannock, and mini tours. So everyone is welcome to go to their event. And the Calvary Baptist Church will have a prayer for healing and reconciliation Tuesday, September 28th from 12 to 1 or from 6 to 7 at the Queen Elizabeth District High School soccer pitch. So there's no limit there, so it's outside. We're going to have a nice sunny day that day. Wednesday, September 29th, there will be 2 Zoom meetings held by SLAM and ACW. I'm not sure what ACW is. Residential school and the impacts at 2 o'clock, and then at 3:30, reconciliation and 7 grandfather teachings. What is ACW?
Tiffany?
Sorry, that's the department I work for. It's with SLIFNA, but we're in approaches to community well-being. And
Oh.
you know what? I had to make time changes on the Zoom meetings because I guess I had to make changes anyway. So there's 2 different times. I
Oh.
actually have Tuesday at I just sent out the links to Tiffany. Tuesday 10 to 11.
Okay.
Residential schools and the impacts. And Wednesday from 6:30 to 7:30. It'll be the same theme. It likely will not be the exact same. But I guess I didn't tell my bosses about the 2 that I had planned on doing back to back. And so
Okay.
yeah, those aren't.
All right.
Had a different idea.
So we just clarify that the 2 that are on there, the time changes have to be Tuesday 10 to 11 and Wednesday at 6:30 to 7:30 p.m.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay,
And
well,
the Zoom meeting links are different. I canceled the other 2 that were on Wednesday during the day.
could you follow up right after the meeting and make sure you ask that so we're about ready to print all the pamphlets this afternoon?
Yep, I sent the Zoom links to Tiffany, I think.
Oh, okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay. So that'll be updated. And then also on Wednesday, September 29th, we'll have the Orange Shirt Day Walk, which is held every year here in Sioux, and this will be the 4th walk. So it'll start at 9:45 when people will go to the Travel Information Center, and then we'll have a prayer by whoever is there. We don't designate anybody, the elder. We just ask whoever's there as the elder to say the prayer. And then at 10:30, the commemorative walk will begin from the Frog Rapids Bridge. And then it'll be followed by, I guess the Rotary Club has decided to host a barbecue at the conclusion of the walk. So there'll be a barbecue after that. The walk will take place rain or shine. And so everybody's invited. And yeah, so we'll also have t-shirts there, and this is the t-shirt design. It says every child matters at the top, and it's got a picture of a heart with the hands. And it says, what does it say? Sioux, Ontario, September 2021. And that's the t-shirt those are the t-shirts that we've ordered. So there'll be about 200 t-shirts. I'll have to see how much they cost. Because that's usually what we do is we order the shirts and then we pay for them, and then we decide if they're going to be $10 or something like that. Okay. And then on Thursday, September 30th, there will be a sacred fire and feasting. Sioux Mountain Drum, Anishinaabe Kwe. Students at Sioux Mountain and Sioux North schools will be able to attend in small groups to feast and kill with that drum. So a very special event. Due to COVID protocols, this event is not open to the public. There will be also a flag raising ceremony. And so this is actually September 30th, the Orange Shirt Day. And the flag raising will be to honor the children who didn't make it home from residential schools. Mayor Lawrence, council, and members of the Municipal Truth and Reconciliation Committee will take part in a flag raising ceremony at 2:15 p.m. at the Travel Information Center. So that'll be taking place there. And I understand the flag has been received by Garnet Anticoneb, and it's a flag from the National Truth and Reconciliation Center in Winnipeg. So, okay, and then we skip over to Monday, October 4th. Every year in Sioux, the Sisters in Spirit Vigil is held, and the event honors the lives of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, gender diverse people, supports grieving families, and creates opportunities for healing. And this will take place from 6 to 9 at Queen Elizabeth High School. All the events are proudly supported by the Municipality of Sioux and the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. And then we have our recordings on YouTube. So there's a little picture of me there. We all were asked to make recordings. So I did one on behalf as the chair of the committee. Mayor Doug Lawrence also videotaped the message, and MP Eric Malelo, who was just re-elected as the MP in last night's election, he also made a recording, and MPP Sal Mamakwa also made a recording. So yeah, so there's lots of stuff that's coming up, and I thank the municipality for designing and putting out the pamphlet. Good job. Yes. Okay. So any comments?
Mayor Lawrence has his hand up, Chair.
Sorry, I didn't see. Okay. Audio.
Thanks, Chair.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to see Chief Bull. I see you're there, Chief Bull. There's still time for a video if you I think we could get that video on. The important thing would be to put it in the pamphlet, and you could have still a day or two to get it ready. It's up to you. Let us know. And also you are a member of the TRC, but I think Chief Bull, you deserve a special invitation. If you are available and you can attend the flag raising, I'd love to have you there. I understand you may have other commitments that day, but if you can attend as a member of the committee and as Chief of Sioux First Nation especially, that would be wonderful. Thanks, Chief.
Miigwech, Your Worship. Yeah, there is a big event on the 30th here. And I know Garnet sent a message for the flag raising that we wanted people there. And we're actually going to be raising a flag as well here and giving out t-shirts and having all three schools converge at the junction, Frenchman's Head, and we're having survivors come and do speeches and talk to the children about their experiences. And the ceremony is planned with a luncheon. And so it's going to be a good day of getting together and inform the children about what this day means. And I am aware of the video, and I am going to do it. So I apologize for being late, and I was supposed to have a council meeting today, and but nobody showed up. I don't know why. That's kidding. Anyways, I just wanted to say that I will have that video, and I glad to be back. And I know I missed the last meeting, and I know a lot of good work's been going on in the background, and I thank the team here. And as for that question about land use and land permits and all that stuff, that usually goes through the Ministry of Natural Resources, and we get messages from them every so often about lakefront property and what are our concerns, if any. And sometimes we have concerns, sometimes we don't. So that's how the process goes. And maybe we can have John Carrigan come and explain it in more detail at some point. That's all for now. And bonjour, darling, and everybody else.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chief. If I may, and Tiffany, could you just add Chief Wool to the YouTube part of the pamphlet that he would be on that list? Thank you.
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you.
All right. The only other thing that was not put on for this year's event was the Equiminis celebration. And we understand it was suggested that maybe that'll take place next year or in the spring sometime. So we thought about adding that on, but it's not going to happen this year. So, okay, just to let you know. Yes, Chief.
Yeah, we had a meeting there a couple of days ago regarding that planned canoe trip, and it was agreed that we don't know what's going to happen on the 4th in terms of we could have a blizzard and while people are paddling across and 4-foot waves, and nobody wanted to take a chance, and
Yeah.
and I understand why. So it was best that we postpone it.
Yeah, maybe in the summer. Yeah.
Yeah, I know the mayor and me paddled around that island. I think it was, I don't know if that was the same island, Mayor. Was it? Grueling. It's a long canoe trip.
Okay.
Though the mayor did all the work, thank him.
Okay. I get to sit in the back of the canoe the next time.
Okay. Aileen? Yes.
I was just thinking, given that the beach, the town beach is not ready yet, that maybe the spring or maybe even like around June 21st might be a time to,
Indigenous Peoples Day.
yeah, that would be a time to recognize the name change and
Okay.
better time for a canoe trip. I'd
Yeah.
rather fancy that.
All right. Anybody else? Before we go on to the next item? Okay. All right. So number 6B, update on motions to council regarding MTO signage, airport signage, and wayfinding signage by Michelle.
Okay, so I prepared the report for council, but under the financial implications, when we prepare reports for council, we have to give what the costs will be on the report. And I still haven't received, we do have an MTO meeting coming up in the next week, or actually it might be this week. It's either this week or next week with representatives from MTO. So I'll be able to determine that cost at that time. The airport signage and wayfinding, I'm still waiting for staff to come back with quotes for that. So in order to bring the report to council, I have to wait for those financial implications so that they can be aware of what the costs will be. So it has not gone to council yet. It's my hope that it will go to council if I receive some information in the short term within the next week. If not, it will have to wait until November. So I just want to update the committee that it will go, but it hasn't gone yet because of that.
Okay. All right, thank you, Michelle. Any comments? No? Okay, we'll move on to 6C, which this was added on to the agenda. The flagpole by Joyce, I believe, and she's not here.
Oh, we lost her.
Yeah.
Joyce had sent a chat message a little while ago indicating that she was having trouble with her connection. So I think that might be what's happening to her. But I'll follow up after the meeting regarding the flagpole specifically with her if she's unable to get on to the meeting later on. With reference to the flagpoles, I followed up with staff last week, and apparently we had the flagpoles for some time, but they were delivered to Public Works, and we weren't aware that they were sitting in the yard. So our facilities supervisor is looking to have them installed, hopefully before the snow flies. So we're looking at putting up 2 more flagpoles in the center island in front of the town hall.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michelle. Okay. Now, number 7, delegation, item number 7, delegations, presentations, committee presentations, and it says nil, so there are none. So we'll go on to item number 8, item for discussion 8A. Raising of the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation flag on September 30th, 2:15 p.m. by Michelle.
Yes, through you, Chair. You had already mentioned it when you went over the agenda for the events that were happening, and Chief Bull also mentioned it too. So I followed up with Garnet this morning. He said he should be receiving the 2 flags through the National Commission for Truth and Reconciliation. He indicated that he's expecting them today, and one will be raised in Lac Seul and one will be raised here at 2:15 on September 30th. And it would be nice if all of the TRC committee was able to attend that flag raising as well. So that's all I wanted to report on that I had followed up with Garnet this morning, and he says he's expecting the flags today.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, and number 8B, review of the cemetery bylaw. So we received a bunch of attachments from Tiffany regarding other places' bylaws. Kenora, I believe, the bylaws there, the City of Dryden, their bylaws, and Sioux Code, and I believe Red Lake, I think. Yeah, and Pickle Lake, sorry. Yeah, Pickle Lake and Red Lake. So we received all the bylaws from those places, and we have a discussion now for the bylaw, I guess, for here in Sioux Code, and what's going to happen with that. There's a user on call and a call in. Who's that? I wonder.
I'm assuming that's Joyce.
Is that Joyce? Hi, Joyce. Is that you?
Oh, hi. Yeah, I'm back on phone. I keep losing you here, so I'm back. I'm on a phone.
Okay. All right. So we're on to the cemetery bylaw.
Okay, I missed what was happening, so.
We went from the MTO 6B, the MTO signage, airport signage. Michelle just updated us on that. And there was a report and the financial implications have yet to be completed, and she has a meeting with MTO next week, I believe. So
Okay.
that's
Okay.
what's happening there. And then we went on to see the flagpole that you had brought up and added to the agenda.
Mhm.
So any update there?
Yeah, just Joyce, you were still trying to get into the meeting at that point. So the flagpoles have arrived on site, and our facility supervisor is coordinating staff to try and have them installed before the snow flies in the center island between the library and the municipal town hall.
Okay, good. Mhm.
Okay. And now we're on to 8B, the review of the cemetery bylaw. Now, last time we had lots of discussion. This time, I guess most of the discussion was led by Mario. Did you have anything to say this time?
Hell yeah, I got lots to say.
Okay,
First of
go
all,
for
I'd like to apologize to Joyce for the last meeting because I took things pretty personal. And however, I don't want to apologize for what I said. I want to apologize for being personal. And the reason why I was personal is because it's been mentioned a number of times that the draft bylaw about putting in wooden crosses, prohibiting wooden crosses in our cemeteries, was rather ridiculous and foolish. I'm the individual that placed that in that draft. So I took it personal, and I shouldn't be, especially on this committee because it's so sensitive on the number of issues that we talk about. And I feel that if we need to be more tolerant towards one another, because if we're not, and we just dance around the truths all the time, we'll never get to reconciliation. And I think that's why. Anyway, one thing that hasn't been said about the cemetery review back in 2001 is what I did was I also had a forum, and I invited all of the municipalities in Northwestern Ontario to attend this forum, including the Ontario Cemetery Registrar. And I forget her name. She came down. It was really a really good forum in which all communities got to add problems that they had with the cemeteries and new thoughts and how we're going to move forward. And I think that's why most of these bylaws are very similar, because it came out of that forum. I know our cemetery bylaw was passed a lot later than 2007. However, in my opinion, we were the first to draft a cemetery bylaw, but it sat on a desk for about 6 or 7 years before it was passed. And that's why we are the last ones to put our cemetery bylaw into place. The issue that I have a number of issues with that. And one of the reasons is that, let's start with the wooden cross. The wooden crosses, it was recommended by the Ontario Registrar of Ontario not to permit wooden crosses within our cemeteries because they rot and they fall down, and nobody knows who's there anymore after that. And the example that was provided was Shinwalk, and Shinwalk was, if anyone doesn't know, was high school for Indigenous students after they. Let's say if you went to Pelican School, if you wanted education beyond that, you went to Shinwalk. Well, there was 120 students that died there. They put them in the cemetery and they marked them with wooden crosses. All those wooden crosses now are in disrepair, or they're not even there anymore. They don't know who's there anymore. And
when you refer to Shinwalk, where is that?
Sault Ste. Marie.
Okay, well, Shinwalk was an Indian residential school.
Yeah, for high schools.
No.
Oh, okay, I apologize.
No, because
Okay,
they had all different, the junior, the intermediate, and the senior, just like Pelican.
Okay. Okay.
But I mean, a lot of us after residential school were sent to Sault Ste. Marie, but we didn't, we attended we boarded out with families.
Okay.
So
So-
the graves there at that school probably consists of all ages of students. Yeah.
Okay. The point being is, according to the Ontario Registrar, was that all the crosses have fallen away and nobody knows who's buried in those burial sites today. And my surprise is that maybe the municipality should be re-looking at prohibiting wooden crosses within our cemeteries, especially given what has happened to recent events in Canada, where we found a number of burial sites where nobody knows who's there anymore, and they're forgotten. In fact, in Sioux, I remember when I hired on, we had many graves that there was just wooden crosses lying on the ground, and we removed them. And there's only one left standing, and that's for Madeline Wynn, and someone has been upkeeping that cross. So given the events that we're having today, I don't know why we're not prohibiting wooden crosses. Maybe come up with a material that's less biodegradable than wood would be an option, but maintaining anything wood is, I find, a problem. So that's one proposal that I would like to put forward. The second thing that I would like to talk about is for not just our committee, but for all committees or for mayor and council to be introducing things within our municipality that, without managerial input or support, we are not experts in the field. We have never run a cemetery. We make proposals that are pushed forward. We are not the professionals. Who's the professionals are the managers. They're aware of the acts. They're aware of the regulations and the bylaws and the operation of the cemetery. Without considering anything, we should first go to the manager and inform them what we're going to do and have them provide input in fairness to them and out of respect for them. And once you get a manager on board, things move a lot quicker and a lot faster, and you get a lot more support, and everybody moves forward together. And I think all we do is it's disrespectful to the manager. Anyway, I think before this should have come back, we should have gone to the CAO, and the CAO should have, got in touch with the manager and went that way there, in fairness, right? I'll give you a good example about it if we want to talk about cemeteries. There used to be a fence all the way around the cemetery, and that cemetery fence was put there for one reason and one reason only, because the general public came out and said, there are dogs defecating on all the graves. There's horses running down the road. So there was an uproar back then, and what happened was taxpayers of Sioux paid for the erection of this fence all the way around. So in recent years, people have looked at that fence and said, oh, what do we got that fence for? Let's take it out, let's remove it, without giving any consideration of why that fence was there. So they removed that fence. The taxpayers of Sioux paid for that. And now what we have is we've got horses running up and down the road. I've seen it many times, and dogs going on the cemetery, defecating all over the graves. I can see in the future, people are going to notice that. And what are they going to do? Ask for a fence to go. So the taxpayers are going to put up another fence. So all I'm saying is we need to be a little more respectful to the people who operate and manage cemeteries or anything else. And if I can move on to wooden picket fences, I don't know why that is part of the TRC. I don't see how that fits into our mandate. And don't, just wait a second, Joyce, you can talk right after I finish. I really don't understand that, because I think we've got bigger and more important things to look at that. I think that if we keep going to the mayor and council about issues that aren't really what the TRC is supposed to be made up of, I think we're going to discredit ourselves, and they're going to look at us and go, you know, at first the TRC is a really good committee, and then it downplays what we do here. Anyway, that's what I'd like to say. That's what I have to say. But I do believe that if we're going to do anything in cemeteries or anything about the cemetery bylaw, we need input from the manager who runs the area, who is responsible for the upkeep maintenance of that cemetery, and who's aware of all the operational problems or what impact that's going to have. Okay, Joyce, over to you. That's it for me.
All right, thank you, Mario. Okay, Joy?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, yeah, like one of the mandates of the committee is to look at all the policies that the municipality has and to make suggestions as to where they could be more fitting with First Nations culture, more accommodating to First Nations culture. And we went through, Brian McKinnon went through all the bylaws. I mean, most of the bylaws are just sort of, you know, they're very, very routine. They're just procedural sort of things. So he went through basically policies and bylaws, and we selected the ones that would be applicable, and the cemetery was one of them. And at that point, like, wooden crosses were not permitted, and there had been a request for a wooden cross, and it was changed so that a wooden cross would be permitted, provided it was made with preserved wood and it was solid. And so the cross that went up was made with preserved wood, and it had a sort of a bracket on it to keep the two parts together. And so that was what happened there. But I noticed that it said it's in the bylaw that it's only temporary. So anyway, there was a request from a First Nations person to have a fence erected on a recent internment, and they were told that they couldn't. So this was brought back as a policy that we could look at as possibly look at us to permit how we could permit wooden fences in line with First Nations customs, which like to have fences around. We first of all, we bring it to the committee, and then the CAO then would take it to management for a report. So I think we do consult management with this. I think we have to also remember that reconciliation isn't always going to be convenient, and that it may cost money. And if it's not convenient to have a wooden cross, if it's not convenient to accommodate an Indigenous culture in a town which is more than 50% Indigenous, then we're not really serious about reconciliation. And so that's my view about it.
Okay.
I don't understand why, if that's what we're going to be doing, I think there's, in my opinion, there's more pertinent issues to review. Like what we were doing back then is we were trying to get in touch with Indigenous elders and find out more on how the Indigenous funerals are, so that we can accommodate them in the rite of the funeral ceremony. That was one of the reasons why we introduced ceremonial sand, because we were told that that was traditional. I do not know if that's even provided today.
But I think the point is, Mario, is that our terms of reference were that we would look at all policies, and so that's why this was brought forward. And it was brought forward about both the crosses and the fence, because they came up as an issue with two separate individuals requesting first a wooden cross, and then several years later a wooden fence. So that's why it's brought here.
Yeah, but in my opinion, wooden crosses and wooden picket fences aren't necessarily totally indigenous. They're in white culture also, and they use those materials back then just because they couldn't get them. They couldn't get concrete or anything like that. Many cemeteries today are only not even allowing concrete monuments that are erected. They want them flat so that to reduce maintenance costs, the lawnmowers can just ride right over them and nothing gets damaged or anything like that. I don't care if they're pressure treated or what, and the design may be provided by someone who was fabricating that and wanted to sell it to people in town. You never know, that may be a possibility. However, it's fine and dandy that we facilitate people. A good example of this is in the cemeteries. We council decided to permit concrete covers on top of graves because it would lower maintenance, so they thought. And what happened was because they're not aware of how cemeteries are how things happen, is the casket over time and over the weight of the soil, what it does is it collapses. And what you have is you have a concrete cap and you have the ground that fails. There's an air gap in between. And over time, when you stand on that, you will fall through. So how do you maintain that? You go back to the owners, and the owners are the people that put it in there. They're long gone. Then who is the internment right holder? You've got a huge family. Who is the internment right holder? It's not stated. And that's why today we ask who the internment right holder is, because you've got no one to talk to. And you eliminate squabbles in the family. Who gets to say what is permitted? So what does the municipality do with that? You can't go in and remove it because the family is going to come after you and say, well, what are you doing messing with my grave? But yet you're stuck in an uncomfortable situation. And it says in most bylaws, it says, if it looks unsightly, well, the argument comes back and they say, unsightly by who? Who gets to determine that? We don't think it's unsightly. You get in all of these different squabbles with families. It brings in litigation. People have gone to court. I've been involved in them. We have graves with more than one person in there. What happens if a person wants to put a picket fence or a cross on there and the other person doesn't? Who gets to say? You have family plots. I want a picket fence on mine. The other guy says, I don't want it on there. Well, you get into all sorts of problems, and that's not even talking about maintenance.
Mario, doesn't this just mean that we need to get a manager's report on this issue and bring it back?
Most definitely, all the time.
I mean, it's you're pointing out complications. Why don't we just refer this to the cemetery department and for a report, and we bring it back?
Yes, and I think anything before it even comes to committee, we should have the manager provide support. He should have input. I don't like the idea of introducing something and throwing in at council, and then council say, well, let's get a manager's support. We're putting the cart before the horse. That's all I'm saying. Out of respect for that manager, because he's got to deal with whatever decision that is put into place. He's the guy that's got to live with it. He has to balance the budget. He has to find the resources. He has to find the manpower, so on and so on and so on. And we are not the experts. They are.
And also you mentioned that we need to also look at the First Nations and
Yes.
how they do, why
Yes.
they do the fencing,
What-
which communities do the fencing. Like right offhand, I know it's Pikanchkum for one. I don't know of other communities that do that have that kind of practice. When I was reading the Dryden policy, they do allow spirit houses, and that is probably their First Nation, their their practice in that region might be Treaty 3, or it might just be their community. But the spirit houses, they have to be movable, so they have to sit on top. They can't allow them to freeze to the ground or something, and they have to be able to move them in order to do the maintenance.
Mhm.
And also that the level, the grave is the responsibility of cemetery employees, but shall be the responsibility of the spirit house has to be the responsibility of the interment rights holder. So whoever the family is, I guess, is the responsibility, the maintenance of it. The spirit house itself is the responsibility of that family. So we should also look at what kind of rights the interment has, how that would fall in place within this municipality. Yeah, so
I think
and
you have.
why, like, I don't even know why they would have a fence with a picket fence. I don't know what that means. So I wouldn't know. There must be a reason for it. The only thing I could think of is animals, and that would be the main reason. And how could you have it as a permanent, or would you be able to have it as a permanent structure of some kind? I don't know.
Or put a fence around the entire cemetery.
Yeah,
I agree with you I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think we should do that for. Maybe we can ask that be done, where we ask, how can we respect individuals when they're trying to bury their loved ones? What are the traditions? What would they like to see? And how we're going to maintain that? What materials we can use to accommodate people? Who is going to be responsible for those structures? And if they're unsightly, how do we go about removing them without it becoming something political that like Pickle Lake went through? Another thing I have to say is, respectfully, Pikangikum is on First Nation land. Ontario or our cemeteries are governed by the Cemetery Act of Ontario, which states very different. For instance, clause 44: every cemetery shall maintain without charge to the interment holder the grounds of the cemetery, including the lots, structures, and markers. So even though the municipality's bylaw says something, the Ontario Cemetery Act supersedes, if that's the proper word, our bylaw. So it can be argued by whoever puts a structure up that municipality is still responsible, because our bylaw is not greater than the act. So we have to be aware of that. And that's where the manager comes in, and he or she gets to provide information if these things are even plausible. That's all I have to say.
Okay, we have two others who want to comment. Mayor, you're first. Yes.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just appreciate the comments that are being made, largely by Mario and Joyce at this time. And I appreciate the Mario's comments about the relationship with committees to council, etc. But committees have a staff member, a staff resource on them, and we have the privilege of having a CAO on ours, and the CAO or the staff resource does help guide what committees recommend to council, and it's a recommendation to council and comes with a staff report when that's done. And typically, if it's going in completely the wrong direction, the staff resource, I think, will help to redirect a committee. It's only I don't. CAO, you could comment that perhaps occasionally a committee wants to do something that the staff resource doesn't. I don't know, but I think that guidance is there. So I think what you've said in that respect is respectful and correct, Mario. But because a committee wants to pursue something doesn't mean to say that the council will either. And when council considers it, there'll be more consideration than just what came in the recommendation from the committee. I think that in terms of reviewing these policies, I think Joyce is right. I think what we were responding to as a TRC some years ago was the calls to action and to review our policies in light of putting an Indigenous light on. And I think that's what we were trying to do here. It can be a bumpy road sometimes, and we're seeing some of the bumps here, but I think it's an honest and attempt to address in the calls to action where it called on all levels of government. Many of the calls to action referred specifically to the federal government, the federal, provincial, or territorial governments, and some referred to all levels of government, and some actually listed municipal governments. And I think, I'm not sure if it was call to action 47 or which one it was. This one has to do with policy. So I think the discussion is good and respectful, and I think it's good that we review the policy at the cemetery. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Okay, Aileen, you have a comment?
I mean, there's Mario was explaining why there's all sorts of reasons why one would not have material that disintegrates or like that. However, having lived in a community where there were, the tradition was wooden crosses, and several of the graves had the little picket fences around them, and the neighboring community used to have, and I think that's the spirit fences, the spirit houses that you were referring to, Darlene. I think it would be helpful before we focus too much on why we shouldn't do things, is to get more information on what particularly Indigenous people and maybe people of other faiths who are now living in community would like. So I would like to suggest that we maybe do a little bit of research. I mean, I can think of 3 people I can talk to get information about the Kanjikan and Sandy Lake, for example, as to what their customs and traditions have been. And we could invite some elders to join maybe even a special meeting to look at that. Anyway, that's what I would like to suggest. Again, from the time I spent, and this was in Fisher River in Manitoba, I learned over the 5 years that there had been lots of traditions that the elders had followed in their burial customs. And then when the funeral homes started being the ones sort of organizing the funerals, they put in some restrictions that were not really appreciated. Because I remember, just one example was that the people used to like to lower the coffins themselves into the grave and fill in the grave themselves. It was a respectful way of looking after the departed loved one. And I remember in a conversation with someone who was really upset that they were not allowed to do that. And I did have some conversations with the funeral director there, who did finally agree that yes, well, they could be present when the grave was in the coffin and could even fill it by hand or at least partially fill in. It was a bit of a struggle, but eventually the funeral director saw the benefit of doing that. So I'll stop there, but I would really like to suggest we get more information on why this is important, because this is the part that is about the truth and reconciliation, about being respectful. Always come up with reasons why it's not a good idea or expensive, but let's find out why first. Why is it important first?
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm sure for the next meeting, we can find out a little bit more information on the way things are done, why, and thank you for all the attachments that we have. We have another person who wants to comment. Chief, yes, Chief.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for those comments, everyone. I respect all your comments, but one of the things that I'm working on is with the recent findings of the children. I'm going to be meeting with the chiefs tomorrow and today, and we're looking at searching grounds. And this issue, I think, is going to be a really big issue, and it's going to be big with the town as well, because the children that got buried in Pelican, some of them were buried in Sioux. And when it comes to cemeteries, I think this issue is going to have a lot of, like Mario said, I mean, there's a lot of issues regarding with rights holders and people that look after a cemetery, and like I haven't even grasped in my mind how this is going to play out. And when you look at the terms of the Truth and Reconciliation missing children burial information, there's 4 sections in their Action 72 to Action 76. It talks about working with government partners engaged in the work of documenting, maintaining, commemorating, protecting residential cemeteries. It does not say anything about municipalities, in my view, but that's where the problem may arise, is that we're going to try to get funding to do a search at Pelican, but we also want to do some searches in Sioux. And how would the town people think about that? That's another issue in terms of bringing all these machines, whatever they use. So I just want to put it out there that this issue, when we talk about picket fences, there's a much bigger picture out there that could be on the horizon, and it's going to cause a lot of discussion and a lot of interest. It'll garner a lot of interest, and we know the funding will come through, but we don't know when. But I did deliver a proposal to the deputy minister a couple of weeks ago. It was for $22 million to search 3 particular sites: Pelican, the municipality cemetery, and the Indian Hospital Cemetery. And then we haven't even talked to the municipality. What is there a protocol? Is there an MOU? Do we need to? I mean, those discussions need to happen, and even more important, the discussions with the residential school survivors. There's money there to do community engagements, 33 First Nations, and so this cemetery issue, I think, is going to be very big in the next few months, years, or whatever, and we don't know how it's going to play out in the long run. I mean, it's just going to get huge, in my view. I just want to put that out there, and I haven't even talked to the mayor about this issue, or Mario, the town council, and at some point we'll need to dialogue, and it's to do with the TRC recommendations as well, and we need to we're trying to, as the TRC committee, we're trying to fulfill some of those recommendations. So I put a lot out there and a lot to consider, and I know the CAO probably Michelle's probably, okay, now what are we going to do now? But anyways, I just want to put that out there to everyone, that there is something in the back burner here that may just come in the forefront within the next few months here. That's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief Bull. Yes, I'm just looking at my little TRC calls to action, and 72, it says we call upon the federal government to allocate sufficient resources to National Center for Truth and Reconciliation to develop and maintain National School Student Death Register. Number 73, call upon federal government to work with churches, Aboriginal communities, and former residential school students to establish and maintain an online registry of residential school cemeteries, including, where possible, plot maps showing the location of deceased residential school children. Number 74, we call upon the federal government to work with churches and Aboriginal community leaders to inform the families of children who died at residential schools of the child's burial location and respond to families' wishes for appropriate commemoration ceremonies and markers and reburial in home communities where requested. 75, we call upon federal government to work with provincial, territorial, and municipal governments, churches, Aboriginal communities, former residential school students, and current landowners to develop and implement strategies and procedures for ongoing identification, documentation, maintenance, commemoration, and protection of residential school cemeteries or other sites at which residential school children were buried. This is to include the provision of appropriate memorial ceremonies and commemorative markers to honor the deceased children. And then 76 also, we call upon parties engaged in the work of documenting, maintaining, commemorating, and protecting residential school cemeteries to adopt strategies in accordance with the following principles. The Aboriginal community most affected shall lead the development of such strategies. Information, number 2, information shall be sought from residential school survivors and other knowledge keepers in development of such strategies. Number 3, Aboriginal protocol shall be respected before any potential invasive technical inspection and investigation of a ceremony site. So that's 72 to 76 under the calls to action, which is this committee's role to look at all the calls to action and to see which ones may affect our municipality. So there are 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them right there under the cemeteries and under the school records for deceased students. So some of them may fall and crisscross into the cemetery. And as Chief Bull was saying, the ramifications for the finding of children in these cemeteries are really going to affect the municipality and the townspeople emotionally, everything that way, and former survivors, survivors' families. And it's going to reverberate into, the communities, because a lot of the graves, I'm sure, are people from different communities, children from different communities. So it is coming. Something is going to really be strongly affect this municipality, the community, and other Indigenous communities in the area, because we are a hub, and it's going to affect the whole hub. So yeah, that's what will happen.
Can we?
I think yes, Joyce.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, can we? I mean, I think that what you're saying is all very true, and we certainly are going to have to be ready for that. But getting back to, we're just getting back to a policy change within the municipality. Just whether or not we can have wooden crosses for people who are dying now. This is quite separate from the issues.
Okay.
I mean, that's basically it. I would just suggest that we get a manager's report on the suggestion and go from there and discuss it next time, that particular issue. And then when the larger issue of the location of graves of residential schools students is brought forward, we'll deal with that separately, because I think this is just, I don't know, I think we're making something very big out of something that is actually fairly straightforward.
No, my intention was to just bring everybody up to speed with regard to the missing children. So when there's and highly likely there'll be a funding proposal. The funding proposal will probably be successful, and I just don't want anybody caught off guard and say, okay, what's this you read in the paper that we got $22 million. But I want to make sure people are aware on the committee, there was funding applied. And it was in the paper, I guess, as well.
All right. Yes, Mayor?
Thanks, Chair. Interesting discussion, and I agree with Joyce's last comment that I think there are two different issues here, related but separate, and we can continue to address local policies while we also keep our eyes and ears and minds open to what the bigger picture that's going on. Chief Bull, I completely appreciate your comments, and yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, people live in communities, in municipalities, and in First Nations, and a sprinkle of people choose to live in between. But the vast majority of Canadians live either in a municipality or on a First Nation. And when I look at some of the calls to action, and never mind the calls, so just what goes on a day-to-day, month-to-month basis, municipalities, unfortunately, are left out of the equation when it comes to, and I understand this, there's a First Nation federal government relationship, there's a municipal provincial government relationship, and so often when the province decides, the province makes the rules on how we treat our water, what the standards are. Municipalities are the ones that have to actually do it. The province decides, and as Mary referred to, is it the Burials Act or the Cemeteries Act? They put all that together, but it's municipalities who have to implement it. And here we are in that cross jurisdiction, sort of between First Nation and federal government and municipalities. And as funding is announced in our municipality, the Indian Residential School burial site wasn't then, but is now within our municipality. The federal, the Indian Zone Hospital was on federal land, but it's within our municipality. The cemetery adjacent to it is within our municipality. And municipalities are, and Chief Bull, you've sort of led right up to this, that we're not in the discussion until things are decided. And we have no funding, we have no mechanisms, we have no departments, no staff, no human resources, especially in a town the size of Sioux, which is so largely impacted by these issues, to do anything other. We have a committee, and you know what our budget is on the committee. We have no other funding anywhere to address these things. So I'm appreciating it, and I agree with what Chief Bull has said. This is coming. We haven't been involved yet in any discussion, and I don't mean by the First Nation, like Sioux. The Chief Bull is very courteous in keeping us up to date. I mean by the province or the federal government. We're just the level of government that has to do something about it when it comes, and we're not given resources. So it is frustrating, but it's real and it's coming. And back to Joyce's point, I think that these are, the issue of burials and whether they be picket fences or policies in our cemetery are different. They're separate, related in some way, but we can continue to address, and we must continue to address our own policies where we have control, and then take part in as best we can the bigger picture of what comes.
Okay, yes, Mario.
I would just like to say that in the past, there was many burial sites where crosses were permitted. They erected those wooden crosses, they rotted away, and now they are gone. And we no longer know who's there. Today, that is a huge issue now. I don't see why we would still consider an oversight from the past to be repeated, so that in the future, we have to look at the future, that again, these crosses will rot and be taken away, and we won't know who's buried there anymore. Why would we want to repeat this situation is a mystery to me. I'm failing to understand that. Thank you.
Well, you can just put a little metal label on it that you know, or and it will be recorded in the town's record.
Mayor, yes. Did you have any more?
Just a follow-up, but I understand what you're saying, Mario, but the records, perhaps the records weren't kept very well in the first place, and certainly we lost a lot of records over time. Record keeping is different now. I know it's digital. Nothing to say that digital records can't be lost, but digital records are backed up in separate locations, and the way we keep our records now is quite different. And I just think that there's the risk of that being lost, or repeating errors of the past, or whether they be errors. It was just some of them might have been errors, and some just the way things were done. I think there are improvements now that mean we can do things without that risk.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, I think that's about it. Until the next meeting, we'll have more information on the traditional burial practices, maybe some research and interviews done with elders. Eileen suggested maybe a meeting of elders would be good to have. I can understand the municipality, the jurisdiction discussion, and that's it for now, I think. So, Eileen, yes. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Sorry, I was muted. Returning to Spirit, I was to look for some United Church funding, which I will do. I need to talk to Lynn Marie, and she's off the call now, but I will send her an email and connect with her around the proposal that she had put in. I think it was to the National Brotherhood for funding. So I want to know what she had applied for, so that I don't need to duplicate the application to the United Church funding. What I wanted to know was, did we have a target audience for the Returning to Spirit workshop? Was it for this committee, or for anyone, or municipal employees? Do you recall what the target was when we suggested this would be a good idea?
Okay, Michelle, did you?
Through you, Chair Darlene, I believe that, first of all, the application, we have a copy of it here at the Town Hall. Marie, we sent it in on behalf of Marie, Lynn Marie, so we can send that to you after the meeting, Amy. And as far as the target audience, from what I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, somebody's here from Slipna. I think it's Lynn Marie is back, but I'm not sure. But correct me if I'm wrong, Tiffany, I believe that the target audience was going to be the committee itself at first, because it was quite expensive. Oh yeah, it is. Lynn Marie is back, so maybe she wants to comment on that directly. Lynn, we were just discussing what the target audience was for the Sisters in Spirit funding application for who was going to be participating.
Could we hold on here for a second? Because we just finished 8B, which was the review of cemetery bylaw. I'm just returning to the agenda. And under 8C is going to be the Centennial Park. So we're kind of jumping ahead into number 9, which is the work plan.
Oh, sorry, my fault. I thought you were at the meeting, and I wanted to get that.
Yeah.
Sorry, put that on hold.
Can we discuss it later? Yeah. Okay, thanks. So we'll finish with 8C, the renaming of Centennial Park. Mario, yes, back on track here.
I really didn't have anything to say. It was more of a question. And I noticed that Mayor Lawrence provided us with information about the renaming of Centennial Park and a comment from an individual, and that's where it was kind of left. And I wanted to know what action was asked from our committee. What is it that, is it just information, or does the mayor require support, or does he require comment or whatever? That's all I had to say about it.
Okay. Yes, Mayor?
Sure, thanks. Sorry, I was looking for my unmute button. I try to speak in muted terms all the time, but it's not very good when you do it on Zoom calls, apparently. Mary, good question. When I put that out there, I think I was, and I think the CAO probably looked at me after she saw that and said, "Oh my!" When I made that comment in the paper, was sometimes floating ideas, and I actually was surprised at the reaction. But that's fine. I mean, I understand that Centennial Park was named for a reason at the time of Centennial, and it was a beautiful flower presentation depicting the provinces of Canada done. I still think it's worthwhile considering, but I think the CIO, and maybe you can help me refresh my memory, had a discussion, and it was more around upgrades to the park itself, and there would be an appropriate time to come up with putting that forward, the renaming of the park. CIO, can you help me, or am I putting you on the spot or something?
No, we had high level discussions. I think that you originally put it out there with reference to the news that came out, and thinking that it may be a good idea to rename Centennial Park. But since then, again, you said since you put it out to the public, we have received significant feedback on it from the public. I think that it was decided that we would kind of hold off and just put it out there as something to think about because of the memorialization that we're trying to accomplish at the Northwest Cemetery, that maybe that is part of it, or have a formal memorialization instead of at the cemetery in Centennial Park, but still keep it Centennial Park. So those kinds of ideas are still out there.
And Reconciliation Park is sort of a natural, to me, a name, and reconciliation, is a two-way street. It takes two or more parties to reconcile something, and I don't think it's inappropriate for we on the settler mainstream side to come up with ideas that are aimed at reconciliation, but at the same time, this committee is an ideal way to sort of feel it out from when we look at the Indigenous side, because the committee is certainly got good representation, and we can discuss that at some point before it goes forward. But I was floating an idea in response certainly to the news that came out from Kamloops at the time. And I hope showing a willingness to do. I mean, these are small things. Renaming a park, but in some ways, renaming an island is a small thing that is a big thing. So, Mario, it's not at the top of the agenda, but we'll probably get back to it sometime in the coming year or so.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to item number 9 on the agenda, which is work plan. So we already had the Northway Section 1 Cemetery Memorialization event, kind of a discussion on it. Timeline, June 2022, we were thinking of having a memorialization event of some kind. And that's ongoing. The status of this is ongoing right now. So if anybody else have a comment on that section? No? Yes, Michelle?
Just if the committee remembers, I'd say about 2 or 3 months ago, Chief Bull said that he would be his staff asked for Indigenous representation for the memorialization. and Chief Bill committed to meeting with staff. We have yet, unfortunately, we have yet to meet as staff with Chief Bull. Different activities have come up and we haven't been able to organize that meeting, but we will be in the near future.
Okay. All right, and then the second one on the work plan is develop the relationship with Nishnabegamic Friendship Center. And this is ongoing. They had a meeting with Jennifer Thomas, and the municipality will be working with the Friendship Center to organize a powwow next year. I guess that would be on Indigenous Peoples Day or something.
We were thinking about that. We were also thinking about possibly doing it on a separate day as well. So that is still ongoing and still need to follow. So that's ongoing at this time, and there's no update to what's already in the status.
Yeah. All right. And the review of municipal policies through a cultural lens, and under the status, public art policy, trespassing policy, and the cemetery bylaw, which we already had a discussion on. Anybody else want to comment under this section, review of municipal policies? Okay. All right. And then the fourth one is engagement with community groups to raise awareness of the efforts and issues of truth and reconciliation. And we're doing that right now as a committee. We're meeting and we're trying to raise more awareness. And we're also going to be doing the education week, which starts on the 23rd to right to the October the 4th, which is good. We're going to raise a lot of awareness that way. And I think that's one of our roles as the committee. Subcommittee to review and forward a new name for Umferville Park. So with this meeting, we've already been talking 2 renamings, and this will be the 3rd one. And we already had a discussion, a meeting on July 22nd, and the subcommittee reviewed the work plan and will revise for the next meeting. Next meeting is September 16th. So who was the main person for this meeting? Michelle, yes.
Well, I'm the resource to that committee as well. So the committee met, sorry, the committee had their meeting and there's going to be there, I think they may have, Aileen, did you already meet as a group outside of the subcommittee yet? Has that been set up?
Well, there's a date for that meeting, so can't remember it offhand, but I know it includes me and Tom and Chief Bull and
Victor.
Yeah.
So they agreed to meet to have like more of an informal and not conversation surrounding the renaming. They still wanted to garner more interest of families that have lived in and around that area, have more history, because the only history we can really find is about Umferville himself. And so we're doing that before we put out the press release and invite community participation in the renaming of Umferville. So we've developed a work plan for that, timelines for that. And we just took a little step back to garner more information before we go out to the public so that we can include some information in the press release. So once that meeting happens, the informal meeting happens, we'll be reconvening as a subcommittee and then putting out the press release with additional information in that.
Yeah, great, thank you. Okay, and then the last item on the work plan is the workshop, Returning to Spirit. And Eileen spoke with the church and advised that applications for funding do not open till September. She'll create a proposal and bring it to the committee once the application process opens. Eileen and Lynn, eh?
Yeah, so I rudely interrupted the agenda because I thought I hadn't realized it was part of the work plan. And I think I sent you an email, Lynn Marie, about getting a copy of your application. Michelle just said that she has a copy. Well, yeah, I looked at the RTS website, but I couldn't find. I was having trouble finding enough detail about Okay, so contact Diane Whittle. All right, anyway, Michelle's going to send me a copy of the application that you put in. And then maybe I'll talk further with you, with Marie, or talk to the Diane Whittle. Thanks.
Yeah, Diane Little is super helpful. I think she's the business part of RTS, and she'll send you an outline of the various programs because they have a number of different programs, and she'll give you the cost breakdown. She'll give you everything you need for your proposal.
Okay.
She's super helpful, and if I can find her, I know her. I use the website to contact them.
Okay.
But
Her
I
number.
think it's like you write out the whole word returning to spirit, and I don't know if it's .org. It might be .org. I'm sorry, I am multitasking right now.
Okay, I did, Marie, I did find the website, so I'll be able to find Diane Whittle now that I know that name. That's great. And I had wanted to confirm that that initial workshop was, you thought that was primarily for the Truth and Reconciliation Committee and maybe also members of its subcommittees or something. That probably would be helpful.
Yeah, it's an introductory to reconciliation, and I was looking at other websites because I'm trying to prepare where people can look for more information. But there's Reconciliation Canada, which I wasn't familiar with before, and they have a number of different things. Yeah, but I'm trying to provide as much information as possible for people to learn about reconciliation. Yeah.
Great. All right. So thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Eileen, for giving us an update on that. And we look forward to the workshop when it does happen. So I hope everybody will take part in it. And that would be really good for us, the subcommittee. I wonder how, in terms of numbers, how many people can participate, because we could also invite the town council, I would think, to participate in the workshop itself too. Yes, Michelle?
Sorry, that was by mistake.
Okay.
I'll
All right.
find out what the numbers are.
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
Okay. And anybody else that we can think of, like say the other organizations here in town that deal a lot with some of the people in the town. Okay. I guess that's about it for this meeting. I look forward to everything that's going to happen, and this is really good. I'm going to try to post this on the social media somehow, and I guess it'll be posted on the municipal social media website as well. Okay, and Michelle, yes.
Just very quickly, once early this afternoon after lunch, Tiffany will make the necessary updates to the pamphlet, get it all out to the committee. And we are printing, I don't know how many copies, but we talked to various outlets in town and they will be distributing them. And one is Johnny, so, or I should say Fresh Market. They'll be distributing it through their cashiers as well to the public. So we're going to try to get the pamphlets out as soon as possible to main venues in the municipality as well as on social media.
Can I just had one comment. Joyce here.
Hi. Yeah.
It's really nice. It's really nice pamphlet. I just wondered if putting the Take Back the Night event seemed to be out of place there.
In what sense? Sorry.
Yeah, the Take Back the Night event was promoted as a reconciliation or a week of reconciliation. It just seemed out of place.
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, it happens to be the same week, but
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's okay. Take back the night.
mhm,
Starting off with that, but also ending with the Sisters and Spirit Vigil seems
mhm,
to be. I think it just kind of falls nicely into place. That we,
mhm,
yeah, the women, the missing murdered women, and I know the municipality was involved in the
mhm,
national during the national inquiry. So I think it's kind of
mhm,
a theme that we need to kind of promote a little bit. So I don't see anything wrong with it.
mhm. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Just
Thank you.
a comment.
Yeah. Yeah. Understand.
Would,
Okay.
sorry, would it be worthwhile just checking with Carmelia that it's okay to include it? In the pamphlet. Could somebody call
I
Carmelia?
think if Tiffany or you or Michelle, I mean,
I was just,
go ahead, Michelle.
I was just going to defer to Tiffany to see whether or not they actually submitted it as an event for this week, because she reached out to a number of organizations. Tiffany?
That item was still submitted by Eileen on her list of things to put in the pamphlet. So I assumed it was okay to include because I believe it is advertised on the Facebook pages about the march and everything like that. It gets advertised like on the Sioux Lookout events and area pages. They put out a flyer. I know, I believe the OPP advertise it as well because it starts at the OPP station. So I think it should be okay to advertise as a piece to our Education and Reconciliation Week.
Maybe just a quick call to who was the contact? Carmelia? Augustine?
Yeah, that's sort of my fault because I had been at the VAC meeting, the Victims Awareness and Advocacy Committee, and we were talking about all the things that were going on, and that's my fault for sort of giving that information, but I'm out of town. I'm in Winnipeg. So Tiffany, would you mind just phoning Carmelia at First Step and just checking that it is okay to include it in the municipality's pamphlet?
Yeah, I'll do that this afternoon.
Thanks,
Okay.
Tiffany.
Thank you.
Much.
Okay. And my understanding of one of the events for the SLIFNA, I think they're going to be handing out these orange booklets at one of their events. So that'll be something. If you don't have one of these, they're about $8 for these little. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I got my order in.
Yeah. Okay. So they are going to be handed out at the SLIFNA event and also at the Orange
No,
Shirt
at
Day
your
walk.
event, the orange, the
Shirt Day?
walk. I'll
Oh,
bring
okay.
them over to the walk.
Okay. So September 29th. And also Ottawa has contacted me too, and they will be bringing medicine bags and other bags of medicines that they've collected. They will be handing those out over there. And I'm not sure what else will be taking place at the Orange Shirt Day walk. Not everybody does the walk, so sometimes people just kind of hang around under the shelter and sit there. And then we also have the t-shirts happening there. People can just come and hang out and talk if they want. And there'll be refreshments, coffee, tea. Yeah, so it looks good. This will be our first Reconciliation Week, Educational Week event. So yeah, I think it'll be good. And I hope to see you all there. And so our next meeting date is October 25th at 5 p.m. And we'll do it on Zoom again. And I guess that's it for this meeting. Item number 11, motion to adjourn. So can I have a mover Mario moves and Eileen seconds. Carried by all. Okay, well, so we'll see you next week, but we'll also see you on October 25th. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, everyone, have a good afternoon.